Hello everybody at home and welcome to another edition of Eye On. I am very excited to be with you tonight. I am your host, Laura Kestrel, and I am super excited actually because not only do we have two poets who I think I might be a little bit in love with, they're also from the Southwest, and I just know their words are gonna fucking blow you away just like they do to me. So I'm very excited to introduce tonight. We have our wonderful feature act, Bethany Goodwill. They're just, what can I say about them really? They are part of Big Trouble. They are actually the better half of Big Trouble. Sorry, David. They wrote a whole frickin' pamphlet of poems on car rides and car journeys and feelings you get from different car rides with different people. Like they come up with such brilliant ideas. They did a joint poem once that was to do with different types of birds and which bird you would be if different people were different birds, and just yeah. So without any further ado, we are going to pass the screen over to the wonderful, the talented, the amazing Bethany Goodwill, everybody. And I will.
I think I'm on now.
There you go.
Hello, everybody.
Hey.
I didn't think I'd get that nervous, but I'm nervous. I think my dad's watching, so shout out to my dad. Happy Father's Day.
Shout out for you guys for being here on Father's Day. I mean, I actually forgot the date when I arranged this, so I didn't. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
So how
have you been, Bethany?
Huh?
How have you been?
Yeah, I'm okay. Better than I have been in the last few weeks, actually. So that's good. Yeah. I actually have enjoyed the lockdown quite a bit more than I thought I would, because it's been nice to not have to do anything or go anywhere, apart from to work every day still. But yeah, it's treated me very well.
Have you been working from home during this time, or have you had to actually go out to work?
A bit of both. But okay. I live really close to where I work, so it hasn't really been a problem for me, which I've been really grateful for. I'm glad I haven't still had to be getting the bus or a train or anything like that. So
fabulous. Okay, so are you ready for us to dive into some questions, if that's all right with you?
Yeah, no worries.
Fabulous. Okay, so can you tell us, do you remember the first time you ever performed poetry? When was your first spoken word performance?
I think I was about 15, and it was in my hometown's music festival. There was there still is a tent where people read poems or perform their own music. They have lots of other musicians and poets in there, but they often have like open mic slots and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I was about 15 the first time I performed, and I was part of a couple of really small writers groups when I was a teenager, where I grew up. So we sort of performed to each other, if that counts, I guess. But
of course.
Yeah, I've been doing it for about 12 years, and I still don't get any less nervous when I perform. So yeah.
So that brings me on to my next question, because I actually was trying to work out how many years that was. So in this 12-year period, how would you say your relationship with poetry has changed since your first performance?
I think I definitely consider more how my words will affect other people, or what other people might be thinking when they hear me read, because before I ever performed poetry, I just wrote for myself, and I suppose I mostly still do. I like the fact that other people seem to enjoy it is a bonus for me, because I don't really, when I write, I'm not like, oh, what will other people think of this? I just kind of, it comes out. But obviously, since I perform poetry, I have to think about, yeah, what will people actually enjoy listening to? Because I think some of the stuff I write, I would never consider reading aloud. So I kind of have to work out what people actually want to listen to at an open mic, because some of it is honestly just needs to stay in the notebook, I think.
What I always find quite interesting is what I tend to do at open mics is I read the room, and so quite often if there's a particular piece of the night that's really resonated with me, I'll try and find a piece of my own work that either talks about a similar topic or I think feeds into the conversation with the piece that's really spoken to me, and I'll try and use that as a way of being like because I prepare my set beforehand, but then I like to pick one poem that does this because it sort of links into what's been happening in the rest of the night, you know. Do you ever do that? Do you ever kind of choose your poem kind of on the day of your performance?
Yeah, I do that quite a lot. I'll usually have I don't know, maybe like 4 that I'm thinking of reading, and it depends because I've performed in a couple of slams, and obviously you write a poem which is on a theme, so I suppose then I don't really have any faffing about which poems I want to read, which is quite useful. But I also sometimes find that quite restrictive, because I think it is quite difficult to just go, okay, now I'm going to sit down and write a poem about this topic. For me, it doesn't really work like that. I have to really like force it if I'm going to write to a theme. Sometimes there'll be like a really good one that really shouts at me though. So it's nice to do it sometimes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think what's really nice is that a lot of the slams in England are themed, because for me anyway, it makes me write about a certain topic that maybe I haven't thought about writing about before. But yeah, I'm more like you. I think I like the free writes. I like to just see where I go. Yeah. So how did you so you're originally from Somerset, right?
Yep, from West Somerset, so quite close to the border with Devon, I guess.
Okay, Devon, excellent. So almost near my neck of the woods and Aiysha's neck of the woods. What was it like kind of moving from Somerset to Kent? Like, how would you compare the two counties in terms of kind of poetry and poetry events and kind of the art scene?
I think there's more of an art scene in my hometown now than there was when I was growing up there. I know there's more stuff for writers, more writers groups now. I actually came to Kent via Reading. I went to university in Reading.
Okay.
Sorry for anyone who's listening who might be from Reading, but it's an absolute shithole. Like, I really didn't have a fun time living there for 4 years. It doesn't really have a lot going for it. So when I moved to Kent and met a lot more poets and artists, I mean, I knew quite a few from where I grew up, but it was nice to be part of a scene rather than me and some of my friends who are artists and poets. It was nice to feel a part of something a bit bigger, and there are a lot more events happening in Kent than there are or were back in Somerset. So it's
cool.
nice to meet lots of other people.
Do you remember then, this is a bit of a specific question, but do you remember the first poetry event you went to in Kent? Oh dear. Well, it appears we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but hopefully Bethany Goodwill will be back with us in a moment. In the meantime, I am live with the wonderful Aiysha, and we're going to say hello to them. Hello, Aiysha. How are you?
Hi, I'm all right.
Yeah, I don't know what's been happening tonight with everybody's Wi-Fi. I apologise profusely. But everyone listening back at home, this is Aiysha. They're our wonderful headliner. They have won, I think, quite a lot of slams, actually, hasn't it? It's been Hammer and Tongue,
Yeah.
It's been, I want to say Unislam as well.
Hello.
Not Unislam.
No.
Which
is
milk?
Which slam? Milk slam. The milk slam. Apologies. The milk slam and the hammer and tongue slam, and just generally your slam poetry is absolutely amazing. So yeah, that's just a little taster of Aiysha because Bethany Goodwill is back with us. Yay! Hey Bethany.
Hello.
I'm sorry to cut you off just now. We're very glad to have you back. We're just going to finish up that last question and then we're going to dive into your poetry set, if that is okay.
Yeah, of course.
With everybody. Okay, fabulous. So I'll give you, you've got the spotlight back. Okay. So do you remember your first poetry event you went to in Kent?
Yeah, so it was Charles Bukowski themed event at a pub in Faversham, run by Angela and Seth. I don't know if people know them, but yeah, they're a couple of really really nice poets and good friends of mine. So yeah.
Okay, fabulous. So when you're ready, do you have a set for us? I'm hoping you do because I'm really excited to hear it.
Yeah, I do. No worries.
Okay,
sorry,
fabulous. So without any further ado, and hopefully the Wi-Fi will stick with us this time, I'm very, very, very excited to present the wonderful wordsmith that is Bethany Goodwill of Big Trouble. Woo! Take it away, Beth.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to read from my zine. I don't have any copies of it left, but I'll show everyone anyway. So this is my zine, Glitter Concrete Teenage Dirtbag, which I made a couple of months ago. So I'm just going to read a few from that. These green chairs are ugly. The wedding ring on your finger means I've got to stop thinking about kissing you. If we were married, there would be no ugly green chairs. There would be no ugly anything. We would be proud of each other, and that would be enough. I'd not be scared of getting into trouble or not knowing where we are going because we won't need directions when we're dead. Thank you. Okay, so this one is called I Won't Even Be Scared. I like daydreaming about your car and falling asleep in the back of it. I fantasize about feeling safe in it because you aren't the sort of man who threatens to kill me for some reason, and I like that about you. You are so safe, I would let you kill me. I want to fall asleep in your car when you're not in it, so you have to wake me up. I won't even be scared. Okay. I'm going to read a really depressing one now. Sorry about that. But then they're all kind of depressing, so yeah, take it or leave it, really. In the future, there will still be bridges people throw themselves off, and I will still know how tall they are. There will still be lorries for people to die in and people to drive them, and we will still know how far they came. In the future, I have outlived my usefulness. Low cloud settles on the hills. The pills bloom in my stomach. Everyone will say they are surprised. Okay, so I'm going to read a couple of new ones, which I don't think anyone's heard before. So this one is called Nobody Tells You. Nobody tells you that you can say no. 9 years later, I'll be very angry about this. 9 years later, when nobody gets to tell me what to say. It floods through all of my gaps except out of my mouth. That isn't what mouths are for. You're so old now, you just look like a painting of yourself, except paintings don't say I'm sorry or please hear me out. They don't tell you they'll be dead in a year and leave you with a body that distracts you from itself. You aren't a danger to anyone, and I'm not sure you ever were. I feel bad for you. I want to be a seed in your teeth your tongue can't work out, a problem your mouth can never solve. I want to make myself repulsive to you so you'll choke on me. It will be ordinary. Let's go to a town where they leave the Christmas lights up all year because nobody can be bothered to take them down. I'll cut my own hair, teach myself to breathe again, stop flinching at everything. The hardest thing to learn is that even if something is true, it can be the wrong thing to say. Catching you out on a lie is like falling on a bruise. I'll stub my fingers out in your eyes instead of playing games I only lose. Whew. I'm going to read another new one. This one is called Melatonin. I'm really excited that some of them actually have names because I don't normally bother to give them names. So that's something. We are twin aches, comorbid. You are a trick question everyone pretends to know the answer to, and I'm pretending to be the answer. I was told not to stand too close to the edge in case it crumbled. When I touch your face, I'm just hedging my bets, but without really taking any chances. We talk about who deserves it, and I say nothing. Someone is always away on business, someone is always slamming a door in another room, someone is always in a hurry to leave. It isn't just news that travels fast. There is always that woman's name I can't forget, sitting at sleep's vanishing point. I bury you in the list of names. The burying is the easy part. This circadian wilt makes me feel weightless. I wanted to be a river instead of dead weight. The space between dreams or seasons or planets. I would be easier to love if there was less of me. All animals were wild once. I can hear your smile, and your hands won't be quiet either. It will happen again. Until then, I'll love you around corners. Okay, I've got a couple more. So I wrote this one for my brother. I don't know if he's watching, but if he is, hello. My brother sends me 4 pictures of himself, and in all of them, he is not looking at the camera. Even though he's turned away, I know he isn't smiling. I ask to see his face, so he sends one more. He looks happy. I've looked at his face so long, I can't see the family resemblance. Okay, I've got one more. This one is called Ambulance Chaser. The sky is apocalyptic. Ominous nuclear winter clouds. I can see myself reach out, take the steering wheel and kill us all. No survivors to never see us again. No survivors to never witness the end of time. I don't take the wheel because I'm not brave enough, and neither are you. I want to make this situation unsafe for myself and take you all with me. I want to know what you looked like before you grew into your face, what you look like when you're scared. Danger follows me everywhere. The blue lights, the man in the subway, the being with you, the car, the crash. I want to crash your car and get sued for your whiplash injuries. Thank you. That's me.
Oh, man, that was so brilliant. Oh, yeah.
Thank
How
you.
do you, for a poet, I'm all shit with words, I'm so sorry. How do you manage to tell such a story in such a short poem? Honestly, it's incredible. Like, I think my reaction says more than my words could. I really, really enjoyed that. And I hope that everyone at home enjoyed it as much as I did. But yeah, thank you ever so much for being here. Thank you for sticking with us. I know you had problems with your internet. Thank you ever so much for coming and chatting with us. Just a few more questions just to kind of finish off the general discussion, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
So what would you say is kind of the central theme to a lot of your work?
Probably death and trauma. I think that covers it.
And do you, sorry, hold on.
No, sorry, you go.
And do you find that, so you talk about death and trauma in a lot of your work, and does this work make it to the stage, or is it more sort of a way of processing things and kind of emotional growth, or dealing with things that have happened in the past?
I think both. There's a few things that I've written about that I don't think I would want to perform about, or at least I don't feel ready to perform about yet. But yeah, most of it I do perform, but I feel like a lot of what I talk about is general enough that a lot of people know how it feels, even if they haven't had the specific experience that I'm talking about. It still resonates with a lot of people and still makes sense to a lot of people, which I never really expected. When I started writing about the things I write about, I didn't expect anyone to come up to me after a gig and go, "Oh wow, thanks, that was really interesting to me, and I know how you feel." But that happens quite a lot, which is really nice. So yeah.
No, I really like your work. I want you to bring out a collection of postcards with your poems on, like a sketch on one side and then a poem on the other, and I'll buy them all.
I can do that. I'm working on.
Can we do that? Can that be a thing? So what kind of leading on from that then? What role would you say poetry plays in your life?
This is going to sound a little bit banal, I guess, but it helps me to consolidate my thoughts and feelings about the world and the people in it that I know. Because I find a lot of things quite scary, so it helps me kind of put everything into perspective for myself and understand how I feel about things. Yeah, it helps me to process a lot of stuff. I think a lot of people have a lot of ideas about what poetry is or what poetry should be, but I have to say I'm past caring now, because for me it's I have such a personal relationship with it, and it really irks me that people say, "Oh no, poetry is this," or "Poetry shouldn't be used to do this." It's poetry; it can do or be whatever it wants. Yeah. Sorry, that's a little bit ranty.
No, it was great. It was great. It reminded me of I saw someone posted in a writers group yesterday. This random person was like, "Why is poetry the most detested part of writing?" And I was like, I felt personally like hurt. I was like, "Oh no." I love poetry. What are you doing?
Idea about it, but I disagree. I don't think it should be as hated as it is. Maybe some people just had really shit English teachers in school, and that, like, GCSE English made them want to gouge their eyes out, and they hate poetry now. I feel like that's the case for a lot of people.
I'm guessing. Did you have a good English teacher? Do you remember?
Yeah, really good. I had a couple actually. One of them in particular, I still speak to a lot, and still send in poems and stuff. Because I had a little bit of a rough time for part of my teenage years, and he used to like lend me books, give me poetry to read, and read my terrible teenage poetry as well. So yeah, really
that's
great.
So nice
for having him in my life. So yeah.
Oh, I love doing these kind of things because you get to learn like niche things about people. So for our listeners at home, do you have any social medias that they can follow you on? They can kind of keep up to date with kind of what you're up to poetry wise.
So I'm obviously on Facebook. My name's Bethany Goodwill. Just find me and add me. At the moment, I'm actually updating my poetry blog, which I neglected for 7 years. So I'll let everybody know when I'm done with that. But in the meantime, if you just want to add me on Facebook, that's fine. I don't have Instagram or anything, but yeah, I post a lot of good memes on Facebook. So if that's your kind of thing, then please add me.
And also Bethany's event that they host, Big Trouble, they are on Instagram. So if you want to follow Big Trouble on Instagram, I encourage you to do so.
So that's completely run by David, because I'm a technological grandma. So yeah, find us on Instagram. But yeah, if you message the page, or it's just David who's going to see that.
The other half of Big Trouble, for those of you that don't know.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your wonderful words. Thank you for starting to make my Sunday evening one of the best Sunday evenings I've had in a while. And yeah, just once again, one more massive round of applause, please, for Bethany Goodwill.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. To introduce everyone to our fabulous headliner for the evening, this is Aiysha Humphreys. They are just all-round superstar, really. They are a massive person on the scene in Bristol. They won the Milk Slam, as we said earlier. They've won the Hammer and Tongue Slam. I believe they are just generally, you're on the circuit quite a lot in Bristol. I mean, not right now, but before quarantine. Can you hear us, Aiysha?
Oh, hello. Sorry, I disappeared.
No, that's okay. Oh man, I find it really ironic because when we were talking to Bethany, we lost Bethany, and we're talking to you, and then I was like, oh no, are we going to lose Aiysha now? Sorry about that. So yeah, Aiysha, you've only been doing, am I right in thinking you've only actually been doing spoken word for, I want to say, either 2 years or 3 years? It hasn't been
2 years.
2 years, but you've made a massive dent in the scene. Like you performed and supported some really amazing poets. You're an amazing poet yourself. You've been doing lots of performances in and around Bristol. They won the Hammer and Tongue Slam in Bristol. They won the Milk Slam. Yeah, like I've seen your work on Instagram, and you know, your performances as well are just beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Really beautiful language, and I really hope that the people at home will go and search you after this, for sure. So then I guess I'm going to hit you up with some similar questions that I have already posted to Bethany. Do you remember your first poetry performance that you ever did? Can you hear us okay?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you just said.
That's okay. I feel like this stream's going to go a bit that way tonight. Do you remember your first spoken word performance? Do you remember the first kind of poetry performance you ever did?
Yeah, I do actually. It was at an open mic that was called Spotlight in Stokescroft in Bristol. Yeah, I think I'd gone there once before just to watch, and then I came back and performed there, the open mic, and I was so scared. It was like, because I'm a really shy person, and I'm a really anxious person, so getting on a stage was quite terrifying. But yeah, I just continued going to that night once a month to build up my confidence, and then I kind of branched out.
Ah, fabulous. So now do you perform just in Bristol, or do you kind of go a bit further afield as well? So where are you kind of mainly based at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it feels weird at the moment because I haven't been doing much poetry stuff, obviously, but I've done some stuff back in Cornwall, which is a strange thing because I didn't do any of that when I lived in Cornwall, but I've kind of gone back and done that. I have done some stuff in London, but yeah, I really want to kind of branch out to different poetry scenes because I mainly do all my stuff in Bristol.
Well, if you ever want to come to Kent, we have a fabulous scene in Kent. So yeah, if you ever are out that way. So how would you say, from when you first started performing poetry up until the kind of the present day, how would you say that your relationship with poetry has changed since then?
I think it's changed a lot, and I go through different periods where I kind of love it and then I hate it, and it's like at the moment I haven't been writing at all at the moment, and I'm in a really like anti-writing, anti-poetry mindset, but I think it will always be a therapy thing for me, and that part hasn't changed. But I've definitely changed the way that I write because I've been exposed to different audiences and kind of thinking, not just writing for myself, but kind of thinking what I want other people to get from it as well has changed the way I write, and like developing my performance as well. So yeah, at the moment it's kind of, it feels like a weird relationship because of everything that's going on and not actually being able to physically go to gigs and stuff. It's strange, but yeah.
I love how everyone so far on this program have given really full answers. I always think it'd be really difficult if I was on the other side of the questions. Like, thank you for giving us such a good answer. It reminds me, when you said that you're not kind of in the mood to write too much at the minute, it reminded me of something someone said to me once, which is, we're poets. Even if we're just looking at the sky, we're working. And
Yeah.
I was like, that's great. I'm not just sat on my balcony smoking. I'm doing something.
Yeah.
So then, kind of following on from that, what role would you say poetry kind of plays in your life, kind of in general?
I think, again, I mentioned before the kind of it being a therapeutic thing. I spent a lot of my childhood and teenage life being very terrified, and I didn't speak very much. So writing was a way that I expressed myself. But funny enough, kind of now, since becoming part of the community, I've become a bit more of a social person and a bit more of a talker through doing that. So yeah, it's just last year, like I did so much last year. I think maybe I did a little too much and burnt myself out a bit, but yeah, it's changed my life completely, which sounds quite dramatic, but yeah, like all my friends I have now are my best friends I made through poetry. So it's kind of like taken over my life and changed it for the better.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel you. I remember when I first kind of got involved in the poetry community, and I remember thinking, like, yeah, I found my tribe. I found like the people I feel most myself with and I can be most myself with. So that's really brilliant to hear that poetry is also doing that for other people. I know you're a massive advocate for various things. Is there anything in particular that's kind of a central theme to your work? I know you've battled with various things in your childhood and in your past. Is there any kind of theme that sticks out the most in your work?
I don't know if there's one theme in particular. I write about lots of different things. So mental illness and stuff is quite a massive one. And gender and sexuality, which I've written more about more recently, as I've kind of explored that more myself. So they're probably the main ones I talk about at the moment.
And do you find that, do you get quite a good, good's not maybe the right word, a lot of reception to those kind of poems? Do you get quite a lot of people come up to you afterwards and they kind of tell you like those words really spoke to me? Because I find that with a lot of your work, it's very raw and it's very honest.
Yeah, definitely. I've had all sorts of reactions, and it's something I really struggled with when I started out, because I wasn't very good at talking to people, and people would come up to me and have all these things to say, and I'd just be like, ah. And you know, people getting really emotional, which is a strange thing to get used to. Yeah, I get a fairly good reaction, and I also like I like performing to different kinds of audiences, because in Bristol there's usually quite a similar audience, which is usually younger people who have quite similar views to me anyway, and I quite like performing in places that maybe have an older audience, or you know, in more rural settings where people are kind of a bit more challenged by what I have to say.
And I definitely think that with some of the places in more rural areas. So I guess you kind of experienced that a bit more with the Cornish scene. Would you say then, as a fellow Cornish person, would you say what's kind of been the main differences between kind of the poetry scene down in Cornwall, or lack thereof, and the poetry scene in Bristol? Did you catch that question, Aiysha? Can you hear us?
I haven't experienced. I've got it now. It was going all. It took a while for it to come out.
Okay,
but yeah, no, I got the question. Did you hear the question?
Okay, fabulous.
Yeah. So I haven't had like massive experience with the Cornish poetry scene. I did a gig with Spout Spoken, which is a really cool night. And I did a festival down there last year. Yeah, like I say, when I lived there, I don't know if any of it did exist then, but I didn't know about it anyway. So I think from what I have done, there's usually an older audience in Cornwall, an older, probably more white audience that are probably maybe not as liberal or whatever as the Bristol scene tends to be younger people and students, mainly. So yeah, I like both of them for different reasons. There's kind of different energies between them, but it's quite nice.
Okay, and I'll let you have a little break from the questions now, to give you, well, I say break, I believe you have a set for us.
Yes, I do. I'm worried my Wi-Fi is not going to last and I'm not going to know about it, but hopefully it'll be okay.
We'll give it a go. I think this stream in general has been a bit of a shambles tonight for various reasons, with all to do with Wi-Fi. I guess it proves the old adage, you know, you can have technology, but sometimes it doesn't make a difference. So without any further ado, I'd love to give a massive round of applause, please, to Aiysha Humphreys.
Cool, thank you. I'm gonna actually start the set with a cover of someone else's poem, which I sometimes like to do. It kind of relates to the poems of my own I'm gonna perform. This is by Olivia Gatwood, who's one of my favorite poets. It's called In the Future, I Love the Nighttime. Every night, a cup of juniper tea, a window cracked for breeze, a drawer of clean knives in the kitchen, only used for fruit, never under my pillow. My sleep a steady march. It's been so long that the thing I read that one time about how he woke the girls up with a flashlight to the face is rusted and untouched at the bottom of my skull. You can find the pink mace in thrift stores, lipstick turned to blade, nail polish that changes colour when dipped in a drugged drink, a reminder of the rituals we had to keep each other out. A girl watches the sky go and keeps laughing. The water only knows her body moving. We walk everywhere. There is no such thing as hurried unless to beat the clock. I am old, my body 1,000 lines, feeble and aching to sit. My hair still sheds at the same rate, but now the colour of oysters, silver and wet and cold in my drain. My feet still fat and full of blood in the heat. The ways I rehearsed my day to be taken, but most days I choose to forget what it was like when they walked the earth, The men who wanted their say in when a girl's body goes still. The men obsessed with our necks. The men who earn nicknames like Zodiac, BTK, Ripper, Bone Collector. Men who said they would be gone in the dark. Ultimately, it was a sickness that killed them. A sickness reserved only for the ones who want of it. And I've heard things, how it forms in a part of the brain that houses violent fantasies. How the worse the thoughts get, the worse the sickness gets, grows so big it pushes out the teeth. I remember seeing them, heads cocked back at parties and laughing with their jaws slung open, a quick flash of missing molars. The worst ones had dentures. Posters warned women to reject date offers from men with a veneer smile. Eventually, it climbs towards the neck, pushes the blood towards the surface, till the flesh grows blue and bulging. You didn't see those ones out much, quarantined by their mothers who shoved romance novels in their faces, begged them to thirst for something tender. But most often it was too late, most often incurable, and soon their chests collapsed, quiet as a slow leaking balloon. Yes, there were vaccines. Yes, a surgeon with conviction and the good spell of his blade. Yes, many a man with his throat cut open or a small slice behind his ear, but always they return. If left alone long enough, the blue would crawl back to the stage and sing. All we have now are the memorials in this blessed apocalypse. Gravestones shaved clean and wordless, planted by their mothers to mourn in shame. The radical girls will rip them from the ground and smash them along the highway, a trail of shattered stone for miles. All that's left are those of us who remember. The rest are newborns or missing. What do you call a feeling that no longer lives in your body? Do you call it a memory? Do you call it and beg it to come back? Sometimes I say it out loud to see if I can still pronounce it. I say it into the mirror, watch the way my mouth wrestles. Then I snatch it by the neck and squeeze it till it's limp. Shove it back down to the bottom of the river. Thank you. He said that was Olivia Gatwood. I love that poem. It also has become like relevant, the whole virus thing. But yeah, I really love that, and I think it's relevant to the rest of my set. So okay. So I haven't written much in the last few months, but I wrote quite a few poems like the first month of lockdown, and this is one of them. It's called Each Day I Get Up and Pray. Each day I get up and pray. Though I do not believe in a God, I do believe in love. And what is love but a ritual? Each day I get up and pray. Though I do not believe in much, I do believe in love and the language it speaks. And what is love but my teeth biting down on my tongue? Each day I get up and wash yesterday from my face, unclog my pores as they open like mouths and spit out all the words I didn't say. Each day I get up, make a coffee, smoke and sit in the sun as it tries to run from my skin. I have made a habit out of running from anything warm, and now the warmth does not know me. Each day I get up and notice how most days we all pray the same way. Each day I get up. On the good days I get up. On the good days I get up and move my body to a beat. Dancing is an antidote to the sickness of my panic. But sometimes I miss panicking about what is my fear but a friend asking me to dance. You told me it takes 21 days to form a habit. Does that mean I'll get used to this? Oh, thank you. What's next? Okay. This next poem was heavily inspired by Olivia Gatwood's collection, the one I read from, called Life of the Party, which is about her obsession with true crime and America's obsession with murdered women. It's a really great collection, and it inspired a lot of my work I wrote last year. And this one is called For the Love of Girls. I don't want to talk about how many times I felt my heart leave my chest every time I walked alone in the night. I don't want to talk about how when I was still a girl, I was conditioned to shrink in towards my bones, holding in my breath. I don't want to talk about how now I'm not a girl, the weight is still the same. I want to talk about all the ways in which my girlhood was a blessing. How I fall in love with the spirit of the girls who do not care that they're being outrageously dramatic. I want them to know that drama is the most beautiful thing I still know how to do. I want to talk about the girls who fall helplessly in love with almost anything, and how maybe that's not their weakness. How maybe that's what makes them so deserving. I want to talk about the girls who painted my nails in hospital beds. I do not want to remember how we compared our pain like it was a beauty contest. I want to talk about how much we loved each other through it all. I want that to be my memory. I want to remember them for the wide-eyed angels that they were. I do not want to talk about their scars, though I know how they ached. I want to talk about the notes we left each other. Each one a love poem, each one a carefully crafted song. They say nostalgia is a bitch. But I bet we were the worst of it. I bet we were the bitches the boys talked about in the locker room. I bet they branded us prudes and sluts and whores. Let us take back our soul. I am not a girl, but I still know how to scream like one. I am not a girl, but my body disguises itself as one, and for that, tonight, I'm glad. Though I hate my own chest most days, though I want my breast to disappear like the girl in the night, some days I am proud of the shape of me. I think it's what made me know how to throw my whole self in. I want to talk about my sister and that secret language only we know. I want to talk about my mother, her soft smile and her sharp edges. I want to talk about my housemate and her tenderness. How when the nights are so unforgiving, we can just sit on her bed, smoke until our lungs ache from the laughter. I want to talk about all the girls that got lost in the dark and how they're still here with me. How I still sing their names. Let's all sing their names. Let's sing her name. Thank you. Right. Cool. This next one I need to find on my phone. So lots of the poems I wrote at the beginning of lockdown were from prompts that were being posted on a group, and there was a prompt that was conspiracy theories, and I wrote a poem about the conspiracy theory surrounding Avril Lavigne, who was my idol as a child. Yeah, I've written this poem about her. It's kind of about her. It's kind of about dead girls or something like that. It's called Dead Girls Are More Interesting. Avril Lavigne was the first girl I ever loved. Back when loving a girl was saved for the prepubescent boys playing kiss chase in the playground, whilst I was playing dead under a tree, with my dad's portable CD player blaring out Complicated, carving my initials next to hers in the bark. They say she was replaced in 2003 with a girl named Melissa, who looked just like her, only softer. They said she was dead, and I longed to be beside her with nothing but the earth and our skateboards by our sides. They say she took her own life, and I wondered how it felt to be someone worth replacing. I pictured the girl who would replace me, though I knew she did not exist, though I knew deep down that I was part girl, part forgettable thing. Maybe they'd give me a new nose and bleach my skin till it was porcelain. The new me would smile more often and apologize less. She would be bubbly and bright and beautiful. These days, they still call her a dead girl. And now that I am older and know so much more about the ways we honor the girls that are worth it, they still call her dead, because after all, when we are dead, we are more interesting. Thank you. Yeah, that was my weird Avril Lavigne conspiracy poem. The next one is another one I wrote during lockdown at the beginning. This is a poem that is sort of about my experience of being non-binary and dating straight men who didn't quite understand the concept and kind of having to prove myself. It's called When He Asked Me What I Am. The man asks me if I am a girl or a boy, and I say neither. I tell him I'm a flower and he plucks me from my bed. I tell him I'm a ghost, so he hides under covers and waits to be haunted. I say I'm a statue. He takes a picture and posts it on the internet. Everyone writes that I am magnificent. I tell him I'm a werewolf, so he curses the full moon and runs away in the night. I say I'm a raven, and he tells me he never liked the color black. I tell him I'm the chewing gum in his mouth, and he spits me into the gutter. I say I'm the ocean, he holds his breath and dives in. I tell him I'm the sky, and he stays inside for 7 days. I say I'm his favorite jumper. He washes me 5 times and hangs me out to dry. I tell him I'm his heartbeat, and he still won't love me. I scream I am nothing, and he still wants me to be everything. He asks me again what I am. I tell him that I'm human, and he does not stay. Thank you. Cool. I think I've done half of half an hour, possibly. I've just got a few more. Okay, so this next one I wrote for a night called Tonic, where you get a prompt the month before and then you can write a poem and perform it. I can't remember what the prompt was, but I wrote this poem. I just want to, if my mom is watching this, there's like a million swear words in this poem, so sorry, Mum. This is a really complex thing I've written about here that I had wanted to write about for ages and didn't have the words. As a non-binary person, I get really frustrated with feminism that focuses on vaginas, vulvas, whatever, and it just really annoys me because it doesn't include trans women, etc. And I kind of wrote about that, but it's kind of about my own uncomfortableness with my genitalia. So just a trigger warning that I'm going to be talking about vaginas. It's called Cunt. 1. Vagina. Mine has always been unextraordinary. I have spent most of my life paying no attention to it. There's something about my insides that makes me want to die sometimes. Feminism taught me to be a wild woman, but my heart screamed no. God is a woman, though I am not. Please let me be heavenly. 2. Pussy. He calls me one and I have to agree. I have been afraid of so much for so long. And if pussy means terror, now I know why he runs from my sheets as the sun comes up, with the taste of me still on his tongue. 3. Shame. This morning there was blood on my bed sheets. I unlearned shame the same way I clean a stain away. It still lives there. We only see it with the lights on. 4. Hashtag pussy power was reserved for a girl who is not me. I am glad you have reclaimed your womanhood, but my body is a house I am still building. It doesn't have a name just yet. And some women have dicks and no tits. Some men have a pussy that bleeds, and some people like me might look just like you, but please don't assume. Gender is a bittersweet violence. I wish someone had just asked me. 5. Cunt. The most beautiful words in the English language, spat at so many not worthy of the title. When he calls me a cunt, all I hear is lovely, adaptable, soft, powerful. Some days my favorite color is still bubblegum pink. My mama tells me she grew up wanting to be a boy to escape the violence. I tell her that binding my chest has never kept me safe. Love never kept us safe. I thought love would always keep me sane. 6. Death. She is an ex-lover texting me at 5 a.m. to tell me I'm the one who got away. She tempts me with her poetry. And how could I not fall in love with an artist? I am always falling in love with the artist. Will my vagina be the death of me? Maybe. Queer has become so synonymous with death. Our bodies synonymous with suicide. We were not born into the wrong bodies. We were born into a world that didn't have the stomach to digest us. We were not born into wrong bodies, but sometimes survival looks a lot like the scars across our chest. Red lipstick stains the Talipram pill packets. Your dead name on your father's tongue. Thank you. Ooh. Okay, what's next? My poems are all quite long. I hope that's all right. Okay. I've got two more, I think. I'm trying to find it on my Google Docs. Okay. This is a poem about being bisexual, basically. That's it. It's called How Not to Be Brave. Every time I write a poem, it is a love poem. I've tried to be something other than a romantic, but I always come back to it. Just like the fuck boys who come back to me in the night when they are sick from lonely. Send me a text at 3 a.m. saying something obscure about the moon, or how beautiful was the shape of my hip, or my armpit hair, or my unkept rage. I do not know whether it is brave or foolish of me to still adore the heart and how it breaks, but always come back to life. I do not know whether the impermanence of it all is what makes me die for it, jump off a bridge for it, join a cult, write 101 love poems for every ghost of a lover, even the ones who were never quite that. I am always falling in love, even when I'm not. He says that is the best and worst part of me. I say, if I tell you I have fallen out of love with everything, please punch me in the throat with my favorite love song on repeat. Friday, I'm in love. Sunday, I'll be drunk on something else. Someone once told me that bisexuals are just greedy. I'd argue that liking boys has just been an inconvenience. He tells me girls are venomous. I think what he means is otherworldly. Whenever I leave my therapist's office, I think about invoicing every man I've ever loved. Say, here, this is for all the emotional labor. Here is for all the hours I spent turning myself into the therapist. They told me you've got to fight for love, but I'm done fighting. Two girls kiss on the bus and show me that love is just another word for brave. I wish it wasn't. I think about how every queer film is just another tragedy. I wish our love could just be holding her hand in the supermarket, kissing her lips in a straight bar, falling in love with the shape of her hip. I'll say something cliche about the moon, nestle into her armpit, make a home there. None of it will be brave, just vulnerable and free. Kiss the dance floor. Okay, I think I'm going to do my last one. It's so strange performing to a laptop. I can't quite get used to it. Okay, so this is my last poem. I saw loads of people writing poems about parallel universes because that thing came out that was apparently not real, but I wanted to do it as well. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. I go to Tesco's and pick out my lunch with reckless abandon. Do not stop to check the fat content on the bag of crisps. I step outside and eat in front of everyone. They do not stare because there is nothing unusual about this. My thighs are thicker than last year. I watch them spread like butter across the bench, unfazed. I'm left with so much time to daydream about the poem I am writing, the novel in my bag I cannot wait to finish, the friend I am meeting for coffee, and whether I have enough change for a latte or if I'll settle for a peppermint tea. There is a man sat across from me with eyes like a wolf, with teeth like all the men I loved in another life. He looks at me like I'm his meal deal, like I'm the next thing he will sink himself into. He tells me, ladies do not eat sandwiches so heedlessly. I take out my receipt from my meal and scribble, I'm not a lady, and place it into his lap. I walk away and no breath is wasted on a half-formed map. I meet my friend down the street. The sun sprinkles across the waterfront like pots of glitter. We do not talk about the weather or men or the government. We tell each other what we ate for lunch. I order a coffee because fuck it, I want to taste something bitter. She tells me she's reading a book about an alternate universe where women like her kneel down to boys with eyes like wolves. And we laugh at how ridiculous that sounds. She tells me about her new lover, a girl with curled red hair and eyes like the ocean. And she is not all consumed. She is just in love. Thank you. I am done.
Your words are they're so raw and so soft and so vulnerable, but at the same time they hit you right in the center of the heart. I don't know if you felt that too, Bethany. Can I unmute you? Is it possible to unmute you?
I'll mute myself.
Oh yeah, fabulous. I'm mesmerized listening to you. I've watched some of your videos, but seeing you perform live it's been absolutely incredible. Thank you ever so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Thank you ever so much for putting up with all the Wi-Fi issues that everyone's had, and that was just honestly, that was incredible. Yeah. I can see why you won those slams. My God, absolute superstar. So what we're going to do just to finish off is, I can see all of us. Yes. Before we quickly go into our kind of group discussion, Aiysha, where can people follow you on the the realms of the internet? Where can they keep up to date with your poetry activities?
So I think Instagram's probably the place I'm most active, and that's Aiysha_poetry. I also have Twitter. I think my username is pumpkin_Aiysha. That's not, I don't really talk about poetry so much there. It's just kind of random ramblings, but you can follow me on there. And I've got a Facebook page, which is just Aiysha Humphreys. I also have a website somewhere, but I'm not very good at I'm not very good at this. Yeah, you can find me places.
So I'm just going to open it up to the floor then. Just to finish off, I have a few kind of more fun questions, which is why I'm in my more chilled position. So if you guys could attribute 3 adjectives to describe poetry. If poetry was a person, what 3 adjectives would you choose to describe this person?
Someone who plays a lot of tricks on people, I think.
Is that 3 adjectives, Bethany?
Tricksy, which is a word I hate, but just makes me think of fucking Lord of the Rings.
Do you have any others, or would you say just Trixie?
No, you guys can go.
So I'm the interviewer. I don't have to answer. That's the brilliance of being the interviewer.
There's 3 of us. It fits.
I was going to say truthful, but that's the complete opposite. And sometimes that's not accurate at all. Some people just bullshit. So I don't know if that's the right one. Powerful. Maybe.
I wrote some answers to this question down earlier.
Oh, I love how Bethany's whacking out her book, just like, I have answers.
Precise. That's the one I wrote earlier.
Very nice. I think illuminating, if I had to choose an adjective, because even if someone is bullshitting, even if they're not saying their particular truth, I feel like they are usually illuminating the audience about a situation in some way, whether that's just being metaphorical about a tree or whatever. Yeah, I think illuminating, if I had to choose. Alrighty. So if someone is, I don't know how much you believe in writer's block, that's a whole other debate for a different day. But if someone has kind of writer's block, or they're procrastinating, or they just kind of want to get into writing and they haven't written for a while, like me, what advice would you give to people trying to kind of get the motivation to write?
I think no, you go.
Oh, sorry. It's really hard to know when someone's about to speak when it's not real life. So I'm having this problem at the moment, so I'm not doing very well with it myself. Usually I would say reading other people's stuff, and reading lots of it, and reading even stuff you maybe don't like. And yeah, I find that inspiring sometimes. Or doing like exercises, like free write exercises, or using prompts is usually good. But like I say, I've tried all these things recently and it hasn't worked. So yeah.
I think it's good though, because sometimes I think, especially with quarantine, it's been a good time to kind of, for a lot of people, just to sit and reflect, and just to kind of find kind of their inner equilibrium, and kind of relax, and kind of get out of the kind of capitalist, let's work kind of vibe. And yeah, I've gone that way as well. I've been very much not really writing, but I don't think it's a bad thing at the current time.
I think definitely reading is the big one for me, like reading other people's work. Just reading as much as you can. I think something else that really helps me is to try not to censor myself. Like if I think something I do a lot is I'll think of a line or think of a couple of words and then immediately go, no, that was terrible. Don't even bother writing that down. You write everything down. The worst thing that is going to happen is that you'll cringe in 10 years when you read it and be like, what? Oh, ugh. But you know, that just write it down. What else? What can possibly go wrong?
That actually reminds me of last summer, I found my Tumblr blog that I wrote between the ages of 12 and 15, like my poetry blog. And I was reading it and I was like, oh no. Oh dear. Oh no.
Oh.
So yes, I can confirm 10 years down the line, you may look at some of your writings and just cringe.
I mean, half the stuff I read tonight, it maybe in 10 years I'll go, oh, why was I so obsessed with cars for some reason? I don't know. But it's out there, so there's not really a lot I can do about it. So.
But I think that's brilliant, the whole kind of growth of a poet. Like, you see how they progress over time. Like, I look back at my first book and I think, like, man, even just because the poems in it were written between about 16 and 21. And I look back and I think I've changed so much in that last 5 years that I think it's kind of nice in a way, because the words that you put out there, whether you're performing them or whether you've got them written down somewhere, just they show who you are at that moment in time. And I think it's nice to see how that, because obviously people progress all the time, but it's nice to see how they progress through their work and through their kind of writing progress, writing careers as well. I think it's really, yeah. Maybe Bethany in 10 years' time will be like, I don't know, really into birds. And they're like, birds are the new best thing. Cars are old news.
Or some other kind of transport.
Yeah. So my last question is, or kind of my last question before we kind of finish up, is are there any other poets out there that you would wholeheartedly recommend to our lovely audience? Of course, I would recommend you two. I think you're both incredible. But are there any people that you would recommend yourselves?
At the moment, I've been reading a book by Jericho Brown, who's an African-American poet who writes a lot about his experience of living in America. And I don't really want to say any more than that, but it's very relevant to the current climate. Definitely would recommend his book. It's called The Tradition. David actually bought it and was like, "Hey, look at this book I bought," and he hasn't touched it since because I've been hoarding it. So it's really good. I definitely recommend everyone reads it.
And what about you, Aiysha?
So most recent poetry book I read was Kim Adonisio, I think that's how you say her second name, who's an American poet. The collection's called, what is this thing called, Love, I think? Yeah. Anyway, it was like the best poetry book I've read recently. Someone recommended it to me. But also there's a guy called Stanley Ianu, who I've met through the Bristol scene, he's like very new. I can't remember where he lives, but he doesn't live in Bristol. He's really amazing, and I've been really enjoying. He's been doing these little Monday reflection things where he reads some poems, and it's been really lovely. So I definitely recommend him.
I love asking that question because I always go back to these streams after and I like write down all these names, and I'm like, when I get some free time because I'm not writing right now, I'm just like, I'm gonna look at these people. So thank you ever so much for your wonderful recommendations. So then my final question is actually my final question is, have either of you got any projects that you're currently working on, any events that you're hosting, anything you want to plug, books coming out, kind of any news that you would like our audience to know?
Okay, what am I don't have much news. I have been in the process of, over the last like 6 months, of putting together a pamphlet, which I wasn't sure whether I was gonna just self-publish or send to a publisher, but I think I'm probably gonna self-publish it. So that will be ready at some point. I don't know when. Yeah, I haven't really got much on otherwise poetry related stuff at the moment, but yeah, I'm always doing various things online, so yeah.
And what about you, Bethany? Have you got anything that you would like to announce?
I've been painting again. Watch
Yay!
out. But also I've after I made my last zine, I feel really bad for anyone who's watching this who's part of this new project, but basically I'm making another zine, but it's like a collaborative project, and I haven't done any work on it yet, but it's gonna be good. It's gonna be big.
I'm actually really excited because I'm part of this project, and I've been waiting because I was going to be the last person because I'm not living in England, and I actually think when you finish your part of the zine, I'll be back in England.
Because I'm useless and take ages to do anything.
It's great, less postage, you know?
Exactly. But I'm nearly done now with my chunk of it, I think. So I'll post it out to, I think, Jacob, my friend Jacob, if he's watching, if they're watching. Hello. Gonna send it to you soon. You won't have to wait too much longer.
So thank you both for joining us. You've been absolutely incredible. I've loved hearing your poetry. You both have very different poetry styles, but just equally captivating. And I was so excited to have you guys as the duo for tonight. I had an absolutely wonderful time listening to you at home. I had a wonderful time listening to you in my home, and I hope everyone else at their other respective homes also enjoyed listening to you as much as I did. Thank you for being here. And yeah, unless there's anything else anyone wants to say, we're gonna end the stream now. So thank you everyone for watching, and yeah, see you on the flip side.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm not.
Cool.